Will 2024 be the year that resellers are finally doomed on Etsy? I don't think so, but they do seem to be making some steps towards trying to make the problem better. And I wanted to talk about that in today's video because you might have missed the news. Now, before I get more comments about how dare you say resellers are bad, I'm not saying resellers are bad. I'm saying resellers are not allowed in the handmade category on Etsy. Okay, there are way too many people out there who have gotten in their heads that they can just buy any old crap on Alibaba and sell it on Etsy. You cannot do this. It is against the rules of the platform. You can resell in the supplies category and in the vintage category. That is absolutely fine and encouraged and not a problem at all. When I'm talking about resellers, I'm talking about people buying stuff that they did not make or design and trying to pass it off as handmade. That is against the rules of Etsy. I will link to the reseller policy in the description below so you can be real clear about what a reseller is and what a reseller isn't, as according to Etsy. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about what Etsy is doing about the resellers who should not be there. They released a report in May this year, 2023, where they talked about what they have been doing and what they plan on doing this year, 2024 and beyond, in order to tackle this growing problem. Now, reselling has always been a problem on Etsy. This is not a new problem. I've been on there for 16 years and they've always been resellers, but they are getting worse. Of course, Etsy sort of brought this upon themselves to a certain extent when they allowed people to do print on demand and digital products and things like that. That kind of muddied the waters a bit and made it harder to sort of figure out what's a reselling item and what is not a reselling item. But they are apparently getting better at figuring out this problem. So let's have a look and talk about what they did. Now, before we do that, the thing we need to remember about Etsy is that they are a publicly traded company, publicly listed company. And that means at the end of the day, their main concern is making money for their shareholders, okay? We, the sellers of Etsy, are really not super important to them in any way apart from the fact that we make them money. So they want to help us make money, yes. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that means they're not going to take resellers off the platform because they make money from resellers. Well, that may be the case, but at the same time, Etsy have come up against a problem. And the problem is that the quality of the platform and people's perception of the platform is in a big decline because they haven't been stringent enough about reinforcing this policy and there's too much crap on the platform, basically. So I think they finally realized this. There was a shareholders meeting recently and Josh Silverman was talking about this issue. And of course, he's talking to the shareholders. So he's like, we can't just get rid of everybody immediately. It's too much work. We don't have enough manpower. And of course, you don't want to tank the share price too much or reduce the gross income of Etsy too much because then that makes the shareholders unhappy. So it's kind of a balancing act for them. But it does seem like they're giving lip service to the idea that they're committed to sort of elevating the integrity of the platform and trying harder to do that. So let's have a look at how they are doing that, or say that they are doing that. So they say that last year in 2023, they used a combination of manual processes and automated processes to comb the marketplace for people who are violating their policies. So they rely very strongly on their own internal systems, and only a small amount of people who are taken off the platform are done so through reporting. But it is important still, if you see someone doing the wrong thing, to report them, and that will help Etsy get rid of people who are doing the wrong thing, right? They say that they improved the accuracy of their automated detecting system 5 times, which doubled the amount of listings they took off the platform that were against the rules. They said they removed 4 times as many listings for violating the handmade policy specifically than in previous years. So this is probably the one that most of us are concerned with, because there's lots of other ways people can violate Etsy's policies. There's a lot of other rules that you can violate that are not just it's not handmade or designed by you. They have a whole list of stuff you can't sell on the platform. So a lot of that would have been that sort of stuff that people tried to sell on the platform that's against the rules, like, weapons and drugs and things like that. But specifically handmade stuff, they said that they removed 4 times as much stuff as previously using these new improved automated tools. They also introduced this new thing called the violative view rate. So this is the rate at which customers are seeing products in their searching that violates the rules. And you know they're serious about something when they give it an acronym, right? So how often people see listings that violate the handmade policy? They said that they reduced their VVR by 60% in 2023. That's significant. They also removed 216% more listings that violated IP and copyright, which is good news for those big companies that have a lot of IP, like Disney and Marvel, which I think might even be the same company now. I don't know, I lose track. But long story short, don't use their IP. You're just going to get shut down. I don't know how many times we can say this. Don't use Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, anything. Make up your own stuff. They also said that they reduced the time it takes for cases to be closed to under 2 hours. I'm a little skeptical of this because I've heard way too many stories of people saying that they were shut down by an AI and never got to speak to an actual human to solve their problem. So I'm going to reserve judgment on this because sure, shutting down and dealing with cases faster is great if you're coming up with the right result at the end of them, which I think sometimes they are not. Okay, so that's what they said they did in 2023. Let's look at what they say they're going to be focusing on for the rest of 2024. Now, the first one I've already talked about in this video, which a lot of you have a lot to say on, and that is the video about the changes they have made to signing up on the platform. So now you have to pay a fee to sign up, you have to give them identity verification, and there was a third thing. What was the third thing? I don't remember. Anyway, read the video. You'll go watch that one after this if you're curious. There were things that they've changed, and a lot of people are very unhappy with these changes, but Etsy has said that the point of these changes is to reduce the amount of spammers, scammers, people on the platform who shouldn't be there, because there's a higher barrier to entry, the cost, but I think it's more so the actual ID verification, that people can't just keep opening shops and getting shut down and keep opening shops and getting shut down because they're pretending to be somebody else. They said they're updating a lot of their policies, specifically in adult content, hate, violence, and off-platform transactions. But more importantly, I guess, is what they say here. They say to increase clarity on what can and can't be sold. And I've bolded this for myself, we're also clarifying our policies to buyers and sellers on what belongs on Etsy and why, including in emerging areas such as AI-generated content. You may notice or may not notice, Etsy doesn't currently, to my knowledge, as I record this, have an AI policy. Sounds like that's going to change. So if you do use AI in any of your product design, you might want to keep an eye out for that, because writing's on the wall, maybe they'll ban it. We don't know yet. At least if they don't ban it, they're probably going to make you disclose it very clearly that it's AI generated content. They're focusing on policy enforcement. So I guess, I don't know if they're hiring more people because they sacked a whole bunch of people at the end of last year, or they're just improving their automated systems, and reducing the violative view rate is another thing that they're focusing on now that they have the fancy term for it. That is something that they are focusing on reducing again even more, to make sure that people are seeing what they should be seeing on the platform, which is handmade, vintage, and supplies. And this final one I think is important because I've seen a lot of this lately, protecting our users from scam and spam messages. All right, there's been a lot of my students in the Thriver Circle who have been talking about this. It's happened to me numerous times as well, getting spam messages. I've seen YouTube comments about it. Some of you have had real problems with this. So, anything they can do to reduce that would be great. Something to know, if Etsy does message you, there's a little badge, not on the picture but near their name, that shows that they are actually an Etsy staff member. So make sure to check for that if you do get a message from anybody purporting to be from Etsy, that they actually have that verification there. So we'll see what the future holds. I mean, we can only hope that they are going to maybe focus more on being the platform that they were, the thing that made Etsy special, the thing that set it apart. And that is a platform for handmade supplies and vintage stuff. And, a lot of us have been really saddened by the direction that the platform has gone in, because not only as a seller, but also as a buyer, it's so annoying to go on there and see all this crap that is not handmade. That's not why I shop on Etsy. If I want that, I'll go to Amazon or eBay, right? So it would be really great if they can actually improve things and actually improve the customer experience and help customers see stuff that they really want and help them to connect with real people, real makers, real artisans, real designers. Because honestly, there's still not a good competitor for Etsy out there. You know, there's no one else who, to my knowledge, has built a platform that is in any way, shape or form as good as Etsy for makers. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. You know, if you know of any up and coming handmade platforms, I would love to hear about them because I'm always on the lookout for those platforms. Of course, there are some out there, but they're usually like, you know, folksy. It's limited to people who live in the UK or made it here in Australia. It's limited to Australians, really. So, you know, a big global thing like Etsy would be really, really great, a really strong competitor. I don't know that this is the right time for a competitor like that to thrive, but I can only hope, or we can only hope, that in the future something else pops up that has the ability to really compete with Etsy. But in the meantime, Etsy's what we've got, and we can only hope that they are going to make things a little bit better for their buyers and for their sellers. If you enjoyed this one, give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my future videos on how to have a thriving and profitable handmade business. My name's Jess. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.